Fall is finally here! Hey pals, Alicia here. I hope you are doing well. And if you're new here, this is the place where we talk about books. So today I am here to do the It's Finally Fall book tag. This is a seasonal book tag that was created by Alina Milena. I will link their channel and video as well as the questions below. It is the 1st of October today. It is a rainy day today where I am, so I'm just really feeling in the fall mood, in the fall vibe, in the fall spirit. There are 9 questions in this book tag that all come with book recommendations. So let's just dive into those questions and let's chat about some books. I'm feeling really zesty today. In fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. So I feel like for this one, I'm meant to be recommending a book with a vivid fall setting or a book set in fall, but I just really want to recommend a book with a very vivid setting. And for this one, I am recommending Perdido Street Station by China Miéville. This book absolutely blew my mind, blew me away. I still think about it all the time. I have been so personally affected by this book and I love it. So I just want to shout it out. Perdido Street Station is a novel. The author would describe the genre as weird fiction. That's how he describes his own work. But I would call this science fiction. I would call it fantasy. I would call it steampunk. I would call it horror. I would call it political, social commentary. There is so much going on in his work. This is the first in a series called the Boz Log series, but it's one of those series where each novel is a standalone, but it's all set in a universe that he has created. So you can read this one on its own, you can pick up the second one and read that one on its own, and it wouldn't matter. They all just happen to take place in the same world, and there are 3 books in the series, and Perdido Street Station is the first one. And the reason why I picked this book for this prompt is because the environment and setting and world that he has created, it's set in a world called Boz Log in a city called Perdido Street Station, which is like the capital city in this place, and it is so vivid and so visceral and so disgusting. Like, the world is a hellscape, but like he puts you right there, right in it, and he sets the scene so well that you actually feel like you can breathe in like the sewer water in the streets. It is such a vivid setting, and you just get sucked right in. So in this novel, we are following a scientist named Isaac. He is a human living in Perdido Street Station. There are other species and other races in this city. Isaac's girlfriend is a Kepri, which is like a bug lady. So she kind of has like a humanoid-esque body, but her head is like a beautiful scarab beetle face. And I love her and I love Isaac. And Isaac is a scientist living in Perdido Street Station. He's kind of like a mad scientist, but he uses his abilities and his imagination to create inventions to help the lives of people around him. He's a very community-minded mad scientist. And the conceit of this novel is that he is greeted by a man who comes in with a need and a request that is just something that Isaac has never thought of before. It's just like a problem to solve that he doesn't know how to solve, and then it just takes on a life of his own as Isaac attempts to solve this problem. This book is amazing. It is disgusting. It will make you so angry. I am still angry from the events of this novel, but like in the best way, in the way where I have been so personally affected by this novel that I'm still mad about it. And I read it like 4 years ago. So, vivid setting, great story, great plot, might change your life. Nature is beautiful, but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with a heavy topic like grief or loss. And for this one, I would love to recommend Medicine Walk by Richard Wagamese. I read this book earlier this year and it is beautiful and quite traumatic, and I'm still kind of haunted by this story. Medicine Walk is following a teenager named Frank Starlight. He does not live with his father. His father is an alcoholic who has never really been able to take care of Franklin, so he is living with another man as his caretaker. And then Franklin's father comes to him one day. Their relationship isn't bad, it's not very well developed. They don't know each other very well. And then Franklin's father comes to him one day and basically reveals to him that he is dying and he wants Franklin to journey with him to a location where his father will eventually die and be buried. So he wants his son to come with him on this journey. So this whole novel is a travel novel where they are traveling through the Canadian wilderness in the BC, British Columbia interior. It's a beautiful setting. But the whole time you are kind of being confronted with the prospect of loss. Franklin is going on this journey with his father, getting to know him really well for the first time, getting to hear about his life, hear about what led him to where he is now. They're both developing a relationship while also saying goodbye at the same time. It's very difficult to read this and not get so emotionally invested in these characters and their relationships and what is going on. Definitely a couple of tears might come at ya reading this, but it is absolutely beautifully written. This was my first introduction to Richard Wagamese, and I will 100% be reading more from him. If you are interested in learning, getting an Indigenous perspective on family, on intergenerational trauma, on colonialism and the history of violence in Canada or any colonized nation for that matter, this is a beautiful and very sad story. Fall is back to school season. Share a non-fiction book that taught you something new. So for this one, this is a book that I just recently read. This is The Skin We're In, A Year of Black Resistance and Power by Desmond Cole. And this was incredible. It definitely taught me a lot of new things. Desmond Cole is a journalist in Canada. He lives in Toronto. And this chronicles the year 2017 in Canada. And each chapter is a different month from that year, going from January to January, and he pulls out instances of racism in Canada, but also Black resistance, Black resilience, Indigenous resistance, Indigenous resilience, and power, all through like little individual stories that were happening in Canada. This is at once a piece of journalism, but it is also an anti-racist text. I learned so much out of this. It gave me a lot of takeaways of things to do, things to learn, more to read. I highly recommend this, not only, definitely if you live in Canada, but this also applies to any colonized nation. You can definitely read this and see a lot of reflections in your own areas and your own country. In order to keep warm, it is good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, friend group that you would love to be a part of. So for this one, I have two. I couldn't really pick between them, and they are both very different. The first family slash friend group that I would love to be a part of is the Ladies of Rat Queens. This is a D&D-esque fantasy graphic novel series where there are just 4 badass ladies that all have their various special abilities and get up to just get up to the shenanigans that they do. They're kind of vigilantes that cause more problems than they help. Anyways, they're just like 4 badass ladies who were really strong and powerful and seem like they're always having a really fun time. So I definitely love them and have a lot of wish fulfillment reading these volumes, and I would definitely sign up to be in their little butt kicking guild. Please let me in. And the other friend group family that I would love to be a part of is the Moraveks in Ilium by Dan Simmons. So Ilium Olympus, Ilium/Olympus is a duology by Dan Simmons. I absolutely loved the first one, Ilium. This book was incredible, but the second one just kind of did a little bit of a dive bomb for me. But the general conceit of Ilium and Olympus is that Mars has been turned into a fake Mount Olympus, and they have these fake Greek gods living on Mount Olympus, and these gods are living out the events of the Iliad and the Odyssey. And they're basically using Homer's text to like recreate it, and then so that's happening. But meanwhile, there are these Moraveks on their own little mission, and the Moraveks are sentient robots essentially, and there are 2 of them. One of them is Manmut, and he is a humanoid-ish looking robot. He can move around, he walks around, and he just loves reading literature. And then Manmut's best friend is like a computer essentially named Orphu. And so Orphu is stationary, like is a computer, but is also sentient. And they are best friends, but they also have like this relationship with each other, and they just talk about books, and they just like have a really good time, and they live all of their days together as just a unit. And I did not care about anything else in this novel. I just wanted to be with these 2 Moraveks. I wanted to talk about literature with them. I wanted to hang out with them. I wanted to be in their spaceships with them. I just like, the rest of this novel is a blur because I only wanted to be with the 2 Moraveks. I loved them so much, and I wanted to be a part of their story. The colorful leaves are piling up around us. Show us a collection of fall-colored spines. So my collection of fall-colored spines, we've got some yellow to orange to red to brown. That's my spectrum of fall-colored spines. The novels that I have pulled are Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Then I've got Luster by Raven Leilani. I haven't read this one yet. This is a new one to my shelf, but I'm actually thinking I'm going to pick this one up next. Then we've got How We Fight for Our Lives by Saeed Jones. This is a queer memoir of Saeed Jones's life growing up Black and gay in America. Then we've got Last Days by Brian Evanson, because gotta have him in one of my videos. And then finally, 15 Dogs by Andre Alexis. I don't think I've ever mentioned this book on my channel yet before, but if you want a book that's just gonna rip your heart out of your body and throw it on the ground and then step on it and then make you eat it, that would be 15 Dogs. This book is amazing. It is about 15 dogs who are living in a pound. They are currently homeless. And then something happens and they wake up one morning and they are all sentient. These 15 dogs become sentient, and then you follow them on the rest of their individual life journeys as sentient animals, and how that would affect the mental well-being of an animal. And it's kind of devastating and beautiful and a really good philosophical exploration. I love this one. There is a dog in this, a black poodle named Majnoon, and every time I see a black poodle now, I'm like, oh, it's Majnoon! It's Majnoon! I love Majnoon. Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Name a novel in which someone is telling a story. So for this one, another Greek mythology inspired novel. We've got The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a mythological retelling. It's also a bit of a queer romance about the Battle of Troy. And it is all about Achilles and Achilles' life, his birth to his death, that chunk of time, that chunk of events. And the whole novel is told as a story from the point of view of Patroclus, who is Achilles' ward, essentially, his like adopted brother, but then also lover. This novel is beautiful. I feel like I'm a little bit biased because I am really stoked by Greek mythology retellings. I eat that shit up. I really love Madeline Miller's writing. I loved Circe as well, and she's kind of an insta-bi author for me. This novel made me cry for minutes, more than one. I loved it. The nights are getting darker. Share a dark and creepy read. For this one, I would love to recommend The Devil Crept In by Anya Alborn. I read this book last year and it spooked me right the heck out. I was creeped, I was spooked, I was scared. I was like, eee, for a while after having read this novel. We are following a young boy named Stevie, and Stevie's best friend is also his cousin named Jude, and Jude is a few years older than Stevie. Jude is he's a teen, he's a moody teen, he's got a bit of an attitude, he's kind of one of those boys that's, you know, run away a couple times, but he's still got a good heart. And one day Jude goes missing and everybody's just like, oh, Jude, he'll come back. And Stevie's like, no, I think something's going on. Like Jude wouldn't just run away like this. And after a few days, Jude comes back and everybody's just like, see, it's just Jude being Jude. Jude just ran away. But Stevie's like, heck no. Something is wrong with this Jude that has returned. So Stevie puts on his like Sherlock Holmes hat and his magnifying glass and he's like, I gotta figure out what's gone on with Jude because I love Jude and this person that has returned is not Jude. So you got your child investigator, child solving evil, child fighting evil, which is a trope that I really like. Stevie was a very charming and endearing and heartwarming character. You just love him. And but at the same time, this is a horror, and there is some very grotesque, very gruesome, very disturbing content in this novel. But it's a good Halloween spooky vibes pick. The days are getting colder. Name a short and heartwarming read that could warm up someone's cold and rainy day. I would love to recommend Sweet Bean Paste by Dorian Sukagawa. This is primo definition of a short, heartwarming read. This is a contemporary fiction story. We are following a man who is working in a sweet shop. He makes sweet bean paste for a sweet treat called dorayaki, which I have never had before, but it absolutely sounds delicious. If you love like food books, like books about food, you're just gonna be so hungry reading this book. The writing and the vivid telling of food is very compelling in this. So we're following a man who works in this sweet shop. He is depressed. He is not at a place in his life where he feels happy. He kind of feels like a bit of a waste, a bit of a bunch of missed opportunities in his life that has led him to where he is. And then one day, an elderly woman comes into his shop looking for a job. She wants to make sweet bean paste. So it's definitely one of those novels where you get to know these two characters. It's It's kind of slow, but also tender and intimate. You're really just hanging out with these two characters, getting to know them both really well as they get to know each other really well. It'll kind of pull at your heartstrings, and I absolutely loved this. Yeah, it's a story of resilience and finding your place and your passion and your happiness in the world, and it kind of has this message weaved throughout it that you don't need to have done great things to have your life have meaning and for you to matter as a human being. So if you are, yeah, if you're feeling particularly, I don't know, like a little bit depressed, this novel will definitely give you a giant hug. And the final prompt is: fall returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to again soon. And for this one, I would love to recommend The Monk by Matthew Lewis. I feel like this book could be definitely on a list of books that I love and recommend but don't remember a lot from. Does anybody else have that? Being like, oh, so-and-so, that's one of my favorite books. But then when somebody's like, what's it about? You're like, let me just go read the wiki synopsis on that. So anyways, I read The Monk when I was in university. I took a course on Gothic literature, Gothic fiction, and it was not something that I knew anything about when I took the course. I picked it because of the instructor. But that course kind of opened up my world, opened up my mind, just kind of blew me away, all of the fiction that I read in that class. And The Monk was one of them. So The Monk is a Gothic horror about a monk named Ambrosio who gets seduced by the devil. This novel is a satire, but it is also very dark. It has some very disturbing content in it. I think Matthew Lewis was only like 17 or 18 when he actually wrote it, so it's kind of an achievement of its time. I remember when I was reading it being like, oh, this writing is, I don't know if I'm gonna jive with this old-timey writing, is probably what baby Alicia was thinking. But I just got so absorbed by this, and I was so deep in the plot. It made me laugh, it made me cringe. I absolutely loved this when I read it, but it has also been like a handful of years since I read it, since I was in school, and I think it's definitely time for a bit of a reread. So there you have it, pals. There's a couple of books that I would love to recommend from me to you in this here book tag, It's Finally Fall. Let me know if you've read any of these books and let me know what you thought. Let me know if you want to read any of these books, and I would love to discuss with you. Take care out there, pals. I really appreciate you being here. Each and every one of you who hangs out with me, you are just an absolute star. So until next time, see you, pals!